Look, I picked Boston College to win this game. I've been predicting it all week. I had no clue they were going to win like this.
You are Locked On Boston College Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Boston, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. Thank you all for listening, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get yourself started. Wow. Well, let's get into this. Boston College smokes UNC 41-21. They win by 20. This was not even that close. There were two garbage time touchdowns by UNC that made it just even a little bit closer than it needed to be. But this was all Boston College up and down this game. BC's offense, their defense, and a little bit of special teams had a really good game in this matchup. So let's break it down. Boston College, they go ahead on a 49-yard field goal, which should have given us the clue that this was going to be a weird game to start with, because Liam Connor kicked a field goal that looked like a dying duck, but somehow it went 49 yards and through the uprights to give Boston College the lead, a lead that they would never give back. And from there, you saw a steady diet of good passes and good runs from Grayson James, who was very agile against a very good UNC pass rush. Good runs by the running backs like Jordan McDonald and Kai Robichaux. They all did a great job, moving the ball. They ran for over 230 yards in this game. And it was just one play after another for this Eagles team. They started off with some big runs. They get some big plays, but I really want to talk about how Grayson James looked in this game, because I'm not sure if Tommy Castellanos could have done what James did in this game, because James A was able to shrug off some great pass rushing and then make positive plays out of all of those. He limited his mistakes. He had no interceptions in this game. He had a couple of passes you'd probably like to see him improve on, but hey, it's only his third or fourth start. You're going to live with that. You're going to be okay with what he did. Now he makes some passes, and I want to talk about one pass that he made that was incredible. He made two really, really good passes to Reed Harris all year long. What have we been talking about with Reed Harris? This dude is 6'5". Get him the ball high, make him go up there against smaller cornerbacks, and let him get the ball. Tommy Castellanos could never do that. It would seem like Harris had a couple catches, but they were all on coverage breakdowns, and that was it. With the way that Grayson James was throwing, he threw a couple that, were right where he could get it. One of them ended up being a huge catch for a long gain, and another ended up being in the end zone for a touchdown. Great job by James to do what he needed to do there, and also great job, especially for Harris on that second touchdown. I couldn't believe he got his feet down on that play. So great job by Reed Harris in this game. I mean, we're going to be giving out flowers all game long with some of the way these guys played. There's a lot to talk about in this game. BC's first win against the Tar Heels since they joined the ACC in 2005. First win. They beat them in 2004 in the Continental Tire Bowl, but they were 0-5 with a pair of vacated losses in there. They haven't won. This was a first for BC. So it's nice to do that. And additionally, Boston College is bowl eligible. Remember, you go back and you watch those FanDuel odds. Their over-under in the season was 4.5 wins. They were not projected to make a bowl game. They are now bowl eligible with one more game, and if they play the way they play like this, they're going to be 7-5. They're going to beat Pitt if they play like the way they did today. So it was incredible to see them go out there and do this, and to break records, to do it in such a dominant way, because, Bill O'Brien has said all year long, he uses that term 60-minute game. You got to play a full game to order to win. We saw a full game against Syracuse. That was pretty full. This was 60 minutes right here. And I don't care about the last 2 touchdowns that they gave up. Those were garbage times. They don't really matter. And, if you're going to be using that against anything that you analyze this game, you don't know ball, because it was backups against their starters. The game was out of hand. It didn't. Those touchdowns did not matter. The final score really was 41-7, really. Like, if you really want to look at it, with some just garbage points at the end. Unless you're a better, like Mitch, who had the over-under on 60. And he got a real bad beat on that. But regardless, the way the offense played, this was a game where UNC comes up north. It's supposed to rain out. It didn't really. I'm in the press box, so I don't know if it rained or not. I don't think it did. But it was raw. It was cold, and it clearly impacted the way UNC played, because I don't think they wanted to be out there. Just looked like they just didn't want to be out there. BC bullied them, both sides of the ball. And they dominated. The lines dominated this game. The defensive line had 7 sacks. 7 sacks. And they were coming from everyone. I think Carter Davis had a sack. You had a sack from KP Price. Quintavious Hutchins had a sack. Of course, Donovan Azaraku had a sack. I'm going to pull up who had the sacks in this game. Azaraku had 2. Oh, Joe Marinaro, who we'll talk about in the second segment. He's going to get some more of these flowers. He had a sack. Like, they were all over Jacoby Criswell in this game. Just, again, this is just my preemptive to start of this. The most dominant win I've seen out of BC against an ACC opponent in 5 years, since 2019, when they smoked Syracuse on the road. This was up and down a butt kicking by the Eagles. The Eagles wanted to get this win more than UNC. They showed it, and they did everything they could to earn that win. In a moment, I want to talk about Joe Marinaro and some other players that made some big plays in this game. We'll get into what that looks like in just a moment. Sorry, I'm having a little tough technical difficulties here, folks. I'll be right with you. What is going on with my computer? Oh, there we go. So, I love my prize picks, and I think you will too. If you haven't tried it out, you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct scores. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. They're the only one that have insurance. So if you have a player go down with an injury, it's going to give you, you're going to keep your lineup live. That's a great deal. They offer Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawal into your account this sports season. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just think, Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 yards next week. Lamar Jackson more than 1.5 touchdowns. Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Make sure that you download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Pick, run your game. This is the Locked On Boston College Postcast, and I have the wrong banner up right now, and I apologize. I don't know what happened there. You should be seeing something a little different, so I'm going to make a little change here while I'm talking to you. Well, BC, they go ahead, and they dominate in this game. And there were players all over this game that I thought had big games, and the one that I really want to mention is someone who had one bad play, but a whole bunch of good ones. And that's Joe Marinaro. If you don't know who Joe Marinaro is, other than his name sounds like a pasta sauce, Joe Marinaro is a former walk-on. I believe he was scholarshiped last year, who is a captain on the special teams. He was buried deep on the depth chart. I think he was 3rd Mike linebacker going into this season. But injuries to Owen McGowan and Cam Arnold forced him into the starting lineup. We saw him play last week against a very speedy SMU team, and he had a pretty decent game. This game, he was very good. Now, there was a play, I believe it was Neto Ekpala, who had Jacoby Criswell by the legs and was spinning him around. And instead of taking one of his almost dozen sacks that he took, Criswell decided just to huck the ball up, which is probably the stupidest thing he could have done, because he hucked it up and there was no one in the vicinity other than Joe Marinaro. Actually, This was another play. I'm screwing up my plays. He made a bad read on this one and threw it to Joe Marinaro. He threw another one later, and I'll get into that in a second. I messed up my plays. So he throws it to Joe Marinaro, who makes an interception. He also had a sack. He also, on one run, I think it was Amarian Hampton, he stuck him right in his place. I'm telling you this. I haven't watched it because I've been in the booth. I have not been able to watch many other ACC games, and I'm sure there's going to be other players that may have had better games. But I think there's a strong possibility that Joe Marinaro could win ACC Linebacker of the Week. How cool would that be for a kid that was a walk-on, a kid that didn't really, he's just been kind of on the practice squad. He's a special teamer. He gets out there, plays the entire game on defense, makes 2 huge plays, and makes a huge difference for BC getting to go to a bowl game. I thought this was such a great game to watch on him. And, what a story to kind of root for someone who you just didn't know about. Like, everyone was joking about, oh, Joe Marinaro is going to go out there. You got to walk on it at linebacker. And he's out there just kicking butt. I thought that was great. Now, the other play I was mentioning that I screwed up on when Criswell, there were so many plays where Criswell was just getting killed. There was another play where, as I was saying, he spun. This was another great defensive play. And another player that came out of nowhere and has been taking advantage of getting snaps, and that's Ryan Turner. Now, before the game, Pete Thamels tweeted out that Max Tucker and Bryquise Brown were going to miss the game. So the starting corners going into this was Ashton McShane and Ryan Turner. Now, as I said, Criswell gets spin around. He throws the ball up. Completely bad decision. And Ryan Turner is the only person in that area. He gets it, pick 6. Like, just of everything that happened in this game, that was another big moment. Another big moment that didn't end up being a great moment because they didn't end up putting up points. I think they only put up 3 points for this. Was Isaiah Ferris with I believe it was a 51-yard punt return. I thought he was going to break it. He just ran out of gas near the end. But that ended up only ending with BC getting a field goal out of that. But it was a great special team. Like, there were some decent special teams moments in this. There were 2 field goals. They hit all their extra points and a punt return. Those were all great moments. Now, the one little negative I have, you know what I'm going to say here, was the kick return. That was the one moment in this one only, and it only lasted a couple minutes because I think BC scored pretty quickly after that. The one moment in this game where I went, oh boy, this is going to fall off the rails again, was BC scores a touchdown. I think it was I think they went up 17-0. They kick it off and they allow a 96-yard kick return. And I said to myself, there we go. This is going to where things fall apart. Every single game, there seems to be a special team snafu. They can't make it through a single game without, a bad punt, missed extra points, missed field goals. It's like, it's crushing. But it ended up not mattering because that really, until the 2 garbage time touchdowns, were the only points Boston College left. I'm telling you, this defense held Amarian Hampton to like 53 yards on 11 carries. The second best running back in the country, next to Ashton Jeanty, who's going to probably be a Heisman finalist, 53 yards. He was completely irrelevant. BC ran, by the time situational football started happening, he was completely irrelevant because the game was so out of hand. You couldn't just run it because he's not as explosive as like Baishal Tutin, who killed BC. This is a guy that needs to just kind of grind, almost like a BC running back where he grinds you out. He couldn't do that. So he was just not there. And when he ran, it was like 3 or 4 yards. And it was like, you can live with that. So I thought that was big. I thought the fact that defense was just able to do that was probably one of the most impressive defensive feats I've seen out of BC all year. As Mitchell Wolf of Eagle Insider said on our podcast earlier this week, he is the best player that you played on your schedule. Better than Kevin Jennings last week. Well, I might disagree with Mitch on that because I think Kevin Jennings might be it. But Amarian Hampton is really, really good. And he was completely irrelevant in this game. BC just shut him down. And they basically made the game into forcing Jacoby Criswell to beat you. And Jacoby Criswell isn't all that good. I didn't think he did much of anything out there. That offense, once you got past Hampton, it was like, you're better than them. And they clearly showed that in all aspects of this game. They were better than them. And in terms of the defense too, just think of this. You played and beat them up, a good high scoring UNC offense, without Amari Jackson, Cam Arnold, Max Tucker, Bryquise Brown. You were missing Owen McGowan. You were missing a bunch of different players. And you didn't even really, and I had to look at the stats. Cam Horsley was dressed. I don't think he played. You know what? It didn't matter. You didn't need to play Cam Horsley. You know, Owen Stodmeyer had a good game. You had Said McConnell having a good game out there. Quan Williams, all these guys. It was an opportunity for them to go out there and do their thing, and they did it at such a high level that your future NFL defensive tackle didn't play. It didn't matter. Boston College, this was a big win for the Eagles. And when you look back at the season, beating Syracuse obviously is nice. You now beat UNC. You have 3 wins in conference, 3 wins out of conference. They're not going to get above 500 in their conference, even if they beat Pitt. They're going to be 500 again. But the way that they played, things are starting to click. And I'm going to eat some humble pie here. I want to get back into this Grayson James thing again. I got to say, I've been wrong. I'm wrong. He is much more suited to run this offense than Tommy Castellanos ever was. He's doing things in opening parts of this playbook that Castellanos just couldn't do. It's the truth. It could be his size. It could be just the way he runs this offense, his skill set. But watching James run this, he's a better fit, and he's doing the right things. And I'm not at the point yet where I'm ready to say we don't need a transfer. I think they need a transfer just in general because I don't think they have enough depth at quarterback. But I am starting to believe that there's a good possibility that Grayson James could be an effective quarterback next year and be your starter because he looks every bit the part. He is confident. He is not making mistakes. He is just, methodical. Like every time BC needed a play made, he made that play. It seemed every single time they did it. And without, against a team that had, that was rushing him hard, he would, shirk off for defenders, run, get positive yards out of that kind of stuff that you remember Tommy Castellanos doing last year. James is doing it too. And making passes. Like, there was a few that he threw at the guy's feet, but he's going to get over that. It's his 4th or 5th start with BC, and he's just getting better. And you can see like the lack of mistakes, the lack of mental errors were all there. Like he didn't throw a pass like that I would consider turnover grade this game. I can look at this. I'll have to watch the film to see if there was more, but everything he threw was safe. He checked down great too. I love the way he checked down the passes too. Like if there wasn't something deep, he would just take what was given to him. And that's a good quarterback. That's a good quarterback right there. So credit to all those who really like Grayson James. And I don't know if this is true, but Mitch Wolf texted me to say that on the broadcast, it sounded like Steve Smith said that, and maybe they got this in the notes. In the pre-show, meetings, that James was going to be the starter at day 1, but he got hurt. I had never heard that before. So that was an interesting thing. And I'm not sure if that's true or not. We'll have to wait and talk to Bill about that. But that was something else that popped up. Now in our final segment, where do we go from here? Let's talk bowls. It's no longer just a projection anymore. The Eagles will be playing in December. We'll talk all about that in just a moment. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Look, I won't lie. I was a bit on the fence with pre-alcohol initially, but then while hanging out with some of my friends, over in Chestnut Hill, I gave it a shot. And believe me, it's the real deal. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Pace yourself. Hydrate, get a good night's sleep, drink responsibly, and wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. Now, if you listened to our podcast on Friday on the Locked On Boston College podcast, you heard me talk about FanDuel. Now, FanDuel has got you covered with NFL action because they are America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you're in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Now, if you didn't listen to Mitch on his bet, you would have been okay. We said all along that BC was going to win this game. You took them with the money line. You'd be having yourself a happy Saturday if you had used FanDuel. If you used Mitch's combo bet, I don't think you'd feel as good, but you can also check out a ton of NFL action with player props, over-unders, and so much more. All you got to do is just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sports partner of the NFL. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here, and we're talking about BC's 41-21 win over UNC. And it's hard to have negative thoughts about any of this game. As I'm sitting here recording, I'm watching the UNC play posters, the things they have with all the pictures, blowing across Alumni Stadium. I wish I could show you. They stopped blowing right now, but I thought that was pretty funny. Anyways, now with 6 wins, Boston College is bowl eligible. It's no longer a projection. The Eagles are going to go bowling. This is great. This is huge momentum for the program because now not only get a game, and many of you probably won't care because you always complain about it, but it gives BC 15 extra practices, which is huge because you've been playing a ton of young players who could continue to learn to develop and build for next year. It's a big thing. So this is big. Now, the ACC is stacked with teams that are bowl eligible at this point. We saw Syracuse, they're bowl eligible. UNC, we just played, is bowl eligible. Louisville, Virginia Tech, Virginia I think will probably end up being bowl eligible. So where is the pecking order in this? I'm not sure. I can tell you, I doubt the Fenway Bowl will take BC 2 years in a row. I don't think that's going to happen. Where they could end up, you could think of things like the Military Bowl in Annapolis. You could end up playing a team like Army. That would be a hell of a game. You could end up in Gasparilla and play a AAC team like South Florida or something like that down in Florida. Or there's other bowls that are going to have to take ACC teams that we're not even thinking of right now that could also end up taking Boston College. Now, BC could help themselves by winning next week, beating Pitt. And basically, I think that would make both of them 7-5 if Pitt loses this week. Would make both teams around the same schedule, same record. Could Boston College end up at the Pinstripe Bowl again? That would play against a Big Ten team, a team maybe like Minnesota or Iowa or something like that. That could be intriguing as well. I know many of you hate baseball stadium bowls. Me personally, I hate them. And I know many of you thought that Iowa game that they played in the Pinstripe Bowl a couple years ago was the coldest you've ever been in your life. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But that doesn't even matter. It's fun to talk about, but now the season has got to the point where it's now considered a success. You weren't expected to make a bowl. Remember, 4.5 was what FanDuel had Boston College beginning this season. It started off with a lot of fire. It had a really tough month of October, but things are picking up again. Boston College is playing at a high level and could end up with 7 wins. That would be amazing for the Eagles. So this is where BC's at. Will they make a bowl? They're going to make a bowl. Where will they end up? We don't know, but feel good. This was a dominant win for Boston College. The best game that they've played all season, top to bottom, minus some garbage time touchdowns, which again, I don't care about. Win is a win. They are now 6-5. You beat a team that you've never beaten before in ACC play. It's a good feeling. I'll be back on Monday with Mitchell Wolf to get his thoughts on the Locked On Boston College podcast. Make sure you subscribe to that on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for all of you who have subscribed here. If you haven't, hit a like button and subscribe to the Locked On Boston Postcast. We do live shows on the Bruins, Celtics, Patriots, Red Sox, and Boston College Eagles. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll be back again on Monday on Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.